for the BSK Youth Development RFP. My name is David Gistarb, and I am the lead project program manager. And I'll have the King County introduce the staff. Go ahead, introduce yourselves.
Sure. Thanks, David. Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlene Jose. I go with she, her pronouns, and I am the contract monitor for our strategy.
Good morning. My name is Leah Grudinsky. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the evaluator for youth development.
Good almost afternoon to everyone. I'm Cherish Cronmiller, and I'm your procurement lead. I'm with the contracts and procurement team under the director's office for King County. Thanks everyone for being here.
Okay, great. So we'll get started. You could put some questions in the chat, but we will pretty much save questions for the end of this presentation. The agenda today is the background on the strategy, the RFP overview and timeline, Zoom grants application basics, and question and answers. And we just introduced ourselves. So like I said, you could post questions in the chat. We do have an old amendment that we have that is pretty accurate that we can share out too that can answer a lot of these questions. Next slide, please, Charlene. So Best Starts for Kids is King County's community-driven initiative to support healthy born children and King County to be happy, healthy, safe, and thriving. And we want to give young people equitable opportunities to be safe, healthy, and thriving, and for communities to offer safe and welcoming environments for their kids. And that's our vision. And how we do it is through promotion, prevention, early intervention, and policy and system change. And youth development will more fall in the prevention and early intervention bucket, and that's what we'll be focusing on today. So the youth development strategy area encompasses programs that provide opportunities for young people to participate in the following strategies: mentoring, youth leadership and engagement opportunities, activities that promote positive identity development, and healthy and safe relationships, including resources for mental health, domestic, intimate partner violence prevention, and peer-to-peer support. You're on mute, Charlie.
Sorry about that, everyone. This graphic details promotive and protective factors that we use as guiding principles for our strategy. So we're focusing on areas like youth resilience, social connections, physical and emotional health, success in school. And then we're also looking to reduce the risk of psychological stressors and unsafe and unstable environments, and several other areas that impact our youth. So the focus population is, sorry, one second, youth in elementary school, middle school, high school, and or ages 18 to 24. And for outcomes, we're looking to increase the number of protective factors for youth ages 5 to 24.
Oh, this is
and for eligibility, proposers must have a federal tax identification number and serve communities in King County. Organizations may partner to submit one proposal as a partnership, but one organization must be designated as the lead for the proposer. And the following are welcome to apply: nonprofit organizations, for-profit entities, tribes and tribal organizations, schools and school districts, public or governmental entities, women of color-led organizations, small nonprofits, community-based organizations, or young people-led organizations serving the South King County region are all encouraged to apply. And any organizations debarred from receiving federal funds will not be awarded funding. We do anticipate that this RFP will be highly competitive, so we are strongly encouraging folks to engage in technical assistance, which we'll give more details on in an upcoming slide, to help determine whether or not your proposal is an appropriate fit for this funding opportunity. And we anticipate awarding between 30 to 35 contracts with individual contract values ranging from a minimum of $100,000 to a maximum of $400,000. And now we'll pass it on to Leah.
Thanks, Charlene. So again, my name's Leah. I'm the evaluator with the Youth Development Strategy. And I just want to give a little bit of an overview about the data and evaluation expectations for partnering with Best Starts for Kids. So data is an important part of our work. It holds us accountable to our vision. It tells us what's working, what needs to change, and highlights the impact of all of our partners. And this is guided by the 3 values of partnership, which helps organizations share stories about their work, collaboration to use data as a tool for mutual decision making, and accessibility to help organizations build capacity and learn from data. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. All right.
Trying to make sure everyone's getting muted. So
yes, thank
yeah.
you.
Sorry.
So you might want to use data in your proposal, and again, be sure to read the RFP in its entirety to understand what those expectations are. When you think about incorporating data into your proposal, start by identifying the story you want to tell. So that way reviewers can get a clear picture of what it is you're trying to do. Again, the RFP will include the rubric that will help you understand what reviewers are looking for and how proposals will be rated. For example, you might see criteria related to equity or resolving disparities in the work, filling service gaps, or meeting community needs, all of which are places where you might use data to tell your story. And you don't need to spend hours reading research papers and looking at statistics necessarily. You can also use numbers and stories from the work that you do in community. And you'll hear about this a little later, but we do have several technical assistance providers available to support you with finding data for your proposal and help tell the story of your work. Next slide, please. So this is a list of a couple of resources you might use to look for data. The first is the Best Starts for Kids indicators. Again, these slides will be online so you can access these links. The indicators bring together data on lots of topics related to children and families in the county, anywhere from early childhood development to high school graduation rates. Communities Count is a great place as well for general information, population level data for King County. And then the Community Health Indicators page has a lot of details about health, social, and economic indicators for lots of geographies and demographics in the King County region. But like I said, some of the most important places you might look for data are at your own organization and then stories of your work. Next slide. So once funded, all Best Starts grantees will participate in performance measurement and reporting activities. And this includes reporting quantitative and qualitative or narrative data to share about your program's impact. Proposals are not required to include evaluation plans. These are created jointly with DCHS staff once contracted with the county. What we're looking for instead is to see the applicants understand that evaluation will be a part of our work together and that they're willing to partner with us on it. We also have several tools available to help measure impact, such as the Youth Development Measurement Tool. This was developed a couple of years ago in partnership with the University of Washington School of Social Work and then a cohort of provider staff and young people. And it includes lots of modules and questions about identity development, social emotional learning, and program environments for youth ages 11 through 24. And you can access the modules at any time at that link here as well. So just to summarize of what the expectations are for reporting when partnering with the county, funded organizations will submit performance measure data that's collected quarterly. That is a combination of demographics such as age, gender identity, race, ethnicity, and zip code, as well as information on services and outcomes. So that's what we call performance measures. And here's an example or a few examples of the performance measures that we used in this last iteration of funding. And then annually, there's also a narrative, which includes qualitative data describing the program changes, successes, and challenges that your program experienced in the last year. And I'll turn it back over to Charlene. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. This slide, we will go over how proposers will be selected. So we will start with the administrative review, where we'll make sure that proposals meet minimum qualifications and also that they are complete and responsive to all questions. Then we will go on to the review panel, which will consist of King County employees, King County Council staff, the Children Youth Advisory Board, and also community members. And then the highest and most competitive scoring proposals will be recommended for a contract. And then those contracts will be reviewed by DCHS leadership. And once approved by them, they will be awarded. And this is an overview of our RFP rating criteria. So there's 25 points total available or possible, with question number 5 and 6 around budget and capacity, which will not be rated. So in summary, our funding available for this RFP is $12 million. The proposals are due on April 15th by 2:00 p.m. Pacific time. The contract duration is 28 months, and the funding request limit is $400,000 per contract. And then I will pass it off to Cherish.
Thanks. Okay, now I know you all saw those figures. You see that money, right? And I know how that is, you know, being a provider, thinking of those funds. But we want to warn you, there's lots of folks applying and needing funds out there, lots of organizations, right? So you want to be sure that, you know, your organization is going to be a good fit for these funds. We are anticipating maybe upwards of 300 applications and only being able to fund maybe 30 to 40 applicants, right? If everyone hit that upper limit, we would hit that 12 million number pretty soon. So need to think about that from a statistics standpoint, but let's go through some of the criteria, how you're going to apply, look at these documents, and think about if this is going to be a good fit. It is going to be highly competitive. So it's going to be important that you hit each of these metrics, and I'll talk more about that as we go on. So RFP was released. It's March 6th. We're in the first info session. The next info session is going to be exactly like this one, because you're going to say, Cherish, do I need to go to both info sessions? And I'm going to say, absolutely not. You're going to hear the same thing at both of them, same slides at both of them. It's just for, accessibility, doing 2 different dates in case somebody can't make the one, right? Some of you folks struggled to find the link. You got to go into the RFP document, right? We want everyone reading that whole RFP document, because that's important that you read through there, you read through the criteria, you read through the questions and know like whether or not you're going to be competitive for this grant. You've got until April 4th to submit questions, right? And there's an ability to submit questions via Zoom grants, although we tend to get a lot of questions to me via email, that's fine too. But all of the questions, as long as they're not highly specific, we share those out with everyone, right? So you're going to see in some of the amendments FAQ, a frequently asked questions. And so you're going to see on there a bunch of people's already, questions and answers there. And as Tiffany said, yeah, Zoom grants is your source for all things, because sometimes, I'll be busy. I'll say, well, it's in this attachment on Zoom grants. You'll be like, well, that's not very helpful, Cherish. I'll be like, well, can't dive in for everyone, right? You got to read through some of those questions and answers, because a lot of things will already have been asked and answered. So please read through. Now, technical assistance. This is key, folks. You got free technical assistance available with this grant. You got to take advantage of this. Technical assistance isn't available for all of our applications, but if you don't have somebody that's dedicated to writing applications, y'all are busy trying to run organizations, do all the work, do all the things, technical assistance is here to help you, right? And they do a fabulous job. And I'm going to recommend you use technical assistance way before you think about using AI, ChatGPT, or any of those things. Okay, so got to think about our technical assistance folks. Sometimes some of them are joining us here in the info sessions. And so really take advantage of that, because you only have till April 4th to request technical assistance. Again, information about that in the RFP document. Your due date, April 15th, 2 p.m. Cherish, why 2 p.m.? Well, because Zoom grants is an East Coast application. So 2 p.m. our time, 5 p.m. Zoom grants time means they're closing down. And so no, crisis happens, right? You wouldn't have anyone to call. If our deadline was 5 o'clock, you'd be calling the East Coast. No one would be answering. So we do 2 o'clock to ensure that if there are technical problems ahead of time, that you can reach somebody at Zoom Grants. Zoom Grants can be a little tricky. We're gonna talk through some of those things, but folks, I want to tell you, you want to be in there and get your application done at least a day ahead of time. Don't be some of these folks that are trying to get in, 10 minutes before 2 o'clock, because this is a cloud-based system. The system gets backed up. And because we're going to have so many applicants, we're going to have to be harsh on this deadline. We're going to have to be harsh on that 2 o'clock when we turn it off. Because I'll go in there and I'll click a button, turns it off, and you'll be like, Cherish, I was only 5 minutes late. And I'll be like, yeah, you and 15, 20 other applicants, So it's going to be tight. So getting in ahead of time is going to be so important. And then proposals are just going to be reviewed and scored during that time frame. Hopefully, notification of selected and non-selected in June, and a start date in August. Y'all start emailing me in April and May asking me when you're going to get notice, and I'll keep telling you June. And so, don't start emailing me till June. I don't know, and I won't have any answers till then. But you'll know, trust me. So, okay, go into our next slide here. Okay, I mentioned a little bit about using AI. Folks, we get some people using AI, they're not even good at it, right? Because they copy and paste stuff in, and then when they give their answer says something like, are you satisfied with this answer? Or would you like more assistance with this question? And we're like, oh, well, clearly you didn't answer this question, a machine did. Again, this is why technical assistance is so important. So just so you know, your responses should be specific to your organization, right? You want to paint the picture about your agency, what's going on with your work, the people you're serving, the work you're doing. So we reserve the right to adjust scores. If we see the same answer going across, then we know people have tried to do a little plug and play there. We know they have tried to just plug in that question, spit out an answer. Or if it's glaringly obvious that you used AI because there's something in there that says like another organization, or it says, it prompts you for something else. Again, we reserve the right to adjust your score down accordingly. And so, if you do use it, make sure you are reviewing and editing it, and make sure you are actually answering the question, right? You want someone who doesn't know anything about your organization to be able to say, hand them your answer and say, does that tell you, does that answer that question to you? Does that paint a picture for you? Because that's the way our reviewers, right, have to look at this, as if blank slate, they don't know anything about you. They don't know anything about your other applications. You have to present that information, right? They're not allowed to go Google your organization and see great news articles. No, they got to go off what's on that application. And so important that you make sure you're being specific and detailed. Okay, Zoom grants. All right. Now, sometimes we got a lot of people in this meeting. Sometimes I ask people to raise their hand if you know how the raise the hand functions, just so I can see how many folks have never used Zoom grants. But we're gonna go in and use this. We've got at least one person hasn't used Zoom grants before. All right. So when you click into the application, and I'm gonna have to check here. Got two screens rolling, so yep, got at least 3, 4, 2. Yeah, you can lower, your hands or whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, so let me share. Okay. Now I lost all of you, so I don't see any of you. I'll try and pull you up on my other screen, but okay. So what you're seeing here is Zoom grants, right? Now, if you don't already have a Zoom grants account, right? What you want is the person who is going to submit the application, hit the submit button, that's the person you want creating an account, right? I often say it's best for an organization to sort of have a generic account, like, you know, an email address you have for your organization and a password, so that anyone at the organization or the folks that are working on a team together to submit this can go in and submit it. What sometimes happens is you get the one person who's got the login and the password, and they're the one that's been working on it. They get sick, they go on vacation, they ghost you, I don't know. And so you want to be sure, because even if you're a collaborator, you can't hit submit, right? It has to be the person that created the application. All right, so I'm not logged in here. What I'm looking at is just what you can see right now, right? If you go and you pull up, this is what you'll generally see. And you get an overview, due date, how communication goes, eligibility, right? Goes over eligibility details again. And then this whole library here, right? This library is good stuff. That's where you're going to find when we post up all the slides from this show. It's where we'll give a link to recordings. It's where we'll put questions and answers. And if there's any amendments, we will have them up there. Okay, so that's where we will have everything for you to be able to see. When you're previewing, you can sort of see through here, you know, what kind of questions. We ask the zip code stuff. You're like, Cherish, the zip code. I know, but it's necessary so that we know where services are being provided and we can track that and report back to the community, right? Folks want to know how their money is getting spent. You can preview, okay, again, you can preview and look at the eligibility and summary questions. So we ask some eligibility and a quick summary question, what age group? Those are just some eligibility questions. And then we've got some of our proposal questions, right, that you can go through and you see. Again, some of these things, you know, as was said by some of the other presenters, don't need to be some Shakespearean wonderful poet, write glowing. No, what you need to do is just answer the question within your character limit and hit it, right? Hit exactly, you know, who are you serving? Give us an example, right? That's what's important, is that specificity, okay? And then in the upload section, that's where you're going to upload your budget template, because in the downloads, we have a template. Attachment B is your budget template. You'll open it, fill it out, and re-upload it, okay? And you can preview, you know, by looking at those things. If your system is set up like mine, it'll automatically sort of open. You can do a save as, save it what you want to name it, and then it'll pull up for you to be able to, and make sure you are saving your work. You want to save it on your drive, right? Because it's not saving up in the cloud. You're working on this in real time on your computer. And so a lot of questions here about filling out the budget. So get with your fiscal folks like tomorrow, right? You know how fiscal folks are. Get with them tomorrow and tell them that you're going to need some of this information for this application, okay? And so we even give you an example here so that you can click on that tab and look on the example and see everything there, right? And so then you're going to save that and you're going to upload it into your application. So when I do have a login, and this is my login that I use just to show how to apply for stuff. When you are, you know, logged in, or if it automatically logs into you, when you scroll down, you're able to see this apply now, start application button, right? Right there. Are the character outside the application? I don't know that we have the character limits listed in the RFP document, but you can always go to the preview here and look at the character count. And then what I always used to do, because yours truly used to be the director of resource development and used to do a lot of applications. So I always put my questions and answers in a Word document or a notepad. And then I would highlight, right click, go to word count in Word, and see how many characters I had. That way I wasn't wasting time typing out all this stuff that wasn't going to fit in the box. So Okay, and so it's all 3,500 for each one. Good to know. 3,500 characters for each one. It's not a lot. Got to be succinct. Get that information in there. All right, so when we hit the apply now, the start button. Now, the thing to know is you need to be watching. See this little balls going in a circle up there? Yeah, that's going to become your best friend or your nemesis in going and using Zoom grants. All right, so when it's just sitting there and you're like, what is this thing doing? You want to watch up there, because until you see that little brown ZG, it's still loading. It's still thinking. The system's still loading, right? So give it time. And then what I like to do is I like to sort of download all of the attachments. I open those up, look through them, and read through. We've got one here that's specific to giving you tips and information on dealing with Zoom grants. And I'll tell you, there's some good links in there too, right? It gives you the who to contact. You have to have an account, how to create an account, some frequently asked questions. Here are some of their basic how-to guides for new applicants, right? So, how to preview. They've got a slide deck. They've got a getting started video. They talk a little bit about. Now, where you need to be careful often in your application is copying and pasting. It does not like special characters. It does not like formatting. That's why sometimes I would take my stuff from Word and I would make sure it was pasted, like into Notepad or something with no formatting, right? Otherwise, you potentially just have to type it in from scratch, working off your other document, because it'll get hung up. If there's any formatting in there, Zoom grants just, it blows its mind. It can't figure it out. I know it's frustrating. We are moving to another system, which some people like to hear, some people don't want to hear, but we're hoping it's going to be easier. We'll see. Because of the copy and paste issues, honestly, it's a big thing here. So you would go through and start to fill this out, the amount you're requesting, applicant information, who's your point of contact. Now, this is where you add collaborators, right? So you're like, Cherish, I got a couple of folks who I want to, my fiscal person, right? I've got one of my staff members. I want to look at that. That's great. You can put in their name, email address, title, whether or not they can edit the application, great. Now, just because they can edit the application and type in it does not mean they can submit, right? Let me say it again. Only the person that created the application can submit the application. That's probably the number one thing we see people having a panic about day of due date, right? Is, oh my God, so-and-so's not here. We don't have their password. What are we going to do? I don't know. What are you going to do? So because technical assistance with Zoom grants can't always necessarily give you access and get you in there to do that, because it's a big thing, right? You're applying for this pot of money, and it's like, if you just let random people in there to do that. So just because they're collaborators, they can't submit. So make sure somebody has got your login and password that you trust that's going to hit that submit button the day it's due if you're not around. But this is why I say, again, do it the day before, right? Treat yourself. I try and get y'all to do this like a weekend before, right? And say what your treat's going to be, right? If you need a cake, if you need to go shopping, like however you treat yourself, you decide, and then you do the application, right? You do it one time, you get all that stuff filled in, you go through it, and then treat yourself, right? And then have somebody else lay eyes on it, read through it for you, and then hit that submit button early, all right? Especially if you're using our wonderful technical assistance folks. They're here to help. They're here to help you work through this. You'll get it done. You'll be done with it, and you can just lay back, right? Don't panic and cause yourself unnecessary stress and anxiety day of. So this is how you're going to go through. Again, you'll go through the eligibility and summary questions. You'll answer your proposal questions. Again, I recommend a copy and paste, and you always want to paste as plain text. It sometimes will work. Sometimes you just have to type it all the way through, right? So if you say, Cherish, my pasting isn't working, I'm going to say, you got to sit and type it then. Something's up. You got to sit and type out your answer. Sorry. And then this is where you're going to upload, again, your budget template that you had saved, worked on your computer, brought back to, okay? So I think I'm good there. Do you want to bring back up for me, Charlene, I'll stop sharing.
Yes, absolutely. Just a sec.
Let's get back to where we were. And again, don't panic. These will be in the attachments. You'll be able to see these again. So you don't need to be screenshotting or anything like that. We'll have those in the attachments tab. Okay. So just a reminder that proposals have to be received by 2 p.m. and it is going to be a harsh cutoff on that date. Okay. Because we anticipate so many applications coming in. We're just not going to be able to likely to give any wiggle room there. Okay. So please get in way ahead of time. You're responsible for checking regularly in Zoom grants to look for updates, amendments, anything else that's being asked or added. Now, often we have an ability to go in and email everyone in the system. Sometimes I like to do that at least a week before to send out a reminder email. But so get in there and get yourself applied. The worst thing you can do is wait until, the week of and then just start, even getting into the system. Oh, please don't do that. So if you have technical issues, we're going to have you submit a ticket to Zoom Grants or contact me and see if we can get that figured out. For some things, it's often sometimes a Zoom Grants issue, and I'll have to send you, the way of them, right? And that frequently asked question document, Zoom Grants, right, is the way that you can get to their contact info, things like that. Again, sufficient time, right? Sufficient time. So, okay, so we went through the Zoom Grants demo. There is, I meant to show you that little button. So up there, up by your print preview, is this an archive your application button? Tiffany made this slide. Tiffany makes the best slides. She's in our CMP department. She and my colleague Shannon are joining us today, and cracks me up. So don't click that because it'll start deleting your application, and literally, like, we can't even get it back. Like, there's no way to go into the system, like, see that thing, look at it, do nothing. So don't hit archive, all right? You don't want to hit that button. I'll be sending you to the Zoom Grants people, like, seeing if they can figure out how to help you. So the boilerplate, be sure there's a link to the current boilerplate. So the link in the RFP goes out to our website that has the most recent standard terms and conditions. You want to review that because your agency has to sign that contract, right? And our contract has some non-discrimination clauses in it. And I'll just be very upfront here. There are some organizations, due to deeply held religious beliefs, do not, they're not able or they're not amenable to signing off on our contract because of some of those non-discrimination clauses based on their hiring practices. And so if you're one of those organizations, you need to read through that contract now carefully and decide whether or not your organization is going to contract with King County. I would hate for somebody to go through all of this, go through an award, and then only at the end to say, well, we're not signing that boilerplate. And we're going to say, well, we're not giving you the money then. So, so you need to read through, make sure that all of that works for you, for your agency, that you're going to be willing to sign that contract and agree to those terms. And if you have any questions about that, you feel free to send them our way. And so if you're already in Agilon, this is something you've already heard us talking to you about. If you're already contracted with us, that we will need to see your insurance, your certificate of liability, and additional insured documents prior to contracting. So we would usually worry about this at award time, but I want to encourage folks, especially you small organizations that maybe haven't spent a lot of time shopping or thinking about your insurance, to look at the insurance requirements that are currently in the terms and conditions. Some or all of those may apply, right? And looking at whether or not your agency currently has those insurance products in place. Okay. Now, our insurance standards are, possibly changing, but if you're having any issues or think that you're going to have a problem getting insured, now's the time to be thinking of this. Because if this is going to be a problem, you're not going to be able to get insurance, then you're likely not going to be able to contract with us because you have to have insurance and be protected, especially those of you, dealing with minors. You have to have those policies on your COI. So look through that. And if you have questions, let us know. I see that there are some questions, already coming in. If we're not answering those, that means that we're likely going to answer them in a document, a frequently asked questions document. And so you would get the answers to those when we upload the amendment and answer each of those questions. It just means that we need to take a minute, make sure that we are answering correctly, have the right answer for you there, or if we need to take a look at something, if there's some type of error. But rest assured, you'll get answers to your questions. You'll need to go into Zoom Grants and look at those amendments. Okay. Great. And who am I turning it back over to now? Charlene?
I think David. Thank you for that. So we do offer free technical assistance is available to support applicants and eliminate barriers that might prevent you from seeking funding. Once the RFP opens, you can read the bios of the TA providers, choose one that seems to your liking and a good fit. Reach out early in the process. We just launched Monday, as been told. So contact the provider via phone or email, and then give about 24 hours to respond before reaching out to another provider. They do talk, so hopefully somebody will get back to you sooner than later. Contact a TA provider at least 3 days before the RFP closes. And if the fit doesn't seem right, feel free to let the provider know and reach out to a new one. Next slide. I think we might have some TA providers here too. Okay, go ahead. Next slide.
Did we want to allow them to just say hello and introduce themselves?
Yes.
Yeah, so we do have a few TA providers on the call today, so feel free to unmute yourselves and introduce yourselves.
Hi all, I can go first. I'm Alessandra, she, her pronouns. I'm a member of the CRUX consortium. We have several providers in our consortium that have some youth development experience, including as direct service providers. So we'd love to support you in any way that we can. And it's such a great group of folks. There's a lot of different technical assistance providers that do great work in all of our firms. So great to be part of this group, and looking forward to helping you all.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ariana, and I'm with Collaborative Partners Initiative, or CPIN for short. We are based in Tacoma, Washington, and we're excited to be TA providers. We have a lot of experience working with newer and smaller organizations, and really enjoy helping shape your ideas. I really like chatting with folks to just help get your project off to a good start. I definitely second the advice that was given, reach out as soon as possible. I think that something I've seen in the past is, the earlier you kind of start this process, the better it goes. And, making sure your idea is well shaped in the beginning can help make your life easier too, rather than, maybe having to go back and rewrite some stuff. So yeah, feel free to reach out a little earlier. I put our email in the chat. So yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Swime Cribe with Dicentra Consulting. Thank you so much, Ariana and is it Alexandro from Crux? And very nice to have other consultants on board here. So we are a team of 3 to 4, and we have been supporting organizations for the past 3 years. And this has been, I would say, my most favorite work. And it has been so rewarding meeting with organizations and getting to know about the impactful work that they're doing. So as Ariana had mentioned, reach out early as you're formulating your responses, because that's the best time, and that will save you time in the long run. And again, encourage you to check out the website and reach out soon. And we are happy to assist anyone. Thank you so much.
Is that all the TA providers? Okay, thank you for that. Like we said, don't forget, this is going to be a really highly competitive and RFP process. So engage with our technical assistants, and a reminder, it is free to applicants. It is free. So take advantage of that. They are really helpful, and that is big. One of the biggest things that help Best Starts for Kids and community is having technical and capacity capabilities. So we do encourage everybody to take advantage of that. So next slide. And then questions. I see we have a ton in the chat, Cherish, and I think what we'll do is have to maybe create amendments. Looks like we got a lot. Instead of trying to answer them all here, I think we can stop recording too. So and maybe take a few questions